The words hit like ice water in my veins. "You're dead to me now." My mother's voice was calm, controlled, even as she delivered the blow that would shatter everything. I sat, frozen on the familiar cream leather sofa where I'd opened countless Christmas presents as a child, my hand instinctively moving to my 7-month pregnant belly. The twinkling lights on the tree behind her seemed suddenly too bright, like staring directly into headlights. My father didn't look up from his newspaper. Michael, lounging on the couch with his phone, actually smirked. The Christmas morning silence stretched between us like broken glass, and all I could taste was the metallic flavor of shock. "Out of the will, too," she added, arranging imaginary lint on her perfectly pressed holiday dress. "I want nothing to do with you or that baby." For exactly 3 seconds, I sat there processing that my mother had just disowned me for being pregnant. Then my training as a nurse kicked in. The same steady calm that had gotten me through medical emergencies and difficult patients. I reached into my purse, pulled out the carefully wrapped Christmas present I'd spent weeks preparing, and placed it gently on the coffee table. "Merry Christmas, Mom," I said quietly, then stood and walked out of that house forever. My name is Rebecca. I'm 28 years old and a registered nurse. This is the story of how I gave my toxic family exactly what they deserved. Growing up as the daughter of old Portland money comes with unwritten rules. My grandfather built a lumber empire in the 1950s, and my mother, Patricia, has spent her entire life acting like that makes us royalty country club memberships, charity luncheons where wealthy women pick at salads and judge everyone beneath their station. Very specific ideas about who people like us should marry. In her world, I should have found a doctor or lawyer by now, someone she could brag about at bridge club. Instead, I fell in love with David Martinez, a tattoo artist with long, dark hair who rode a Harley and came from a working-class Mexican-American family. The first time she met him, I watched her mentally calculate his inadequacy like she was balancing a checkbook. What made the rejection even more twisted was my brother Michael's situation. At 25, he still lived in our parents' basement, supposedly finding himself between his brief stints at various jobs. Yet somehow he felt entitled to lecture me about David's lack of direction, while Mom paid his rent and car insurance. But I didn't know about that financial arrangement yet. That revelation would come later. And when it did, it would expose the stunning hypocrisy at the heart of my mother's righteous judgment. The breaking point came on Christmas morning. David and I had been married for 6 months, a beautiful ceremony his warm family had embraced, while my parents sat stone-faced through every moment. When I discovered I was pregnant, I naively believed that becoming grandparents would soften their attitude. I actually thought their first grandchild would matter more than their prejudices. I drove to their house that morning carrying more than just Christmas presents. Hidden in my purse was documentation I'd been gathering for months, a comprehensive file that would destroy my mother's carefully constructed world if she pushed me too far. Walking into that perfectly decorated living room, I felt the familiar tension that had become our family's default setting. Mom offered coffee with fake politeness. Dad buried himself in the newspaper. Michael scrolled through his phone, already preparing to be entertained by whatever family drama was about to unfold. "I wanted to tell you in person," I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "You're going to be grandparents. The baby is due in late February. We're very happy and hope you'll want to be part of your grandchild's life." The silence that followed felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. My mother's face went through several expressions: shock, disgust, cold calculation, before settling on pure fury. That's when she delivered the death blow. "You're dead to me now." Then the will threat, the complete rejection of her first grandchild, the casual destruction of 28 years of what I'd foolishly believed was unconditional love. What my mother didn't know was that the Christmas present I left behind contained a USB drive with months of carefully documented evidence, financial records showing irregular withdrawals from family accounts, medical records documenting my stress-related health issues that started precisely when I began dating David, screenshots of text messages and emails showing her pattern of manipulation and emotional abuse. But the real nuclear option was the copy of my grandfather's revised will. 6 months before he died, Grandpa had quietly changed his estate planning. He'd watched my mother's treatment of me with growing disgust, and in his final will, he left the bulk of his personal fortune directly to me, explicitly bypassing my mother. This was separate from the business holdings my parents controlled. She'd never known because the lawyer had kept that portion confidential per Grandpa's instructions. It would only be revealed if certain conditions were met. One of those conditions was my mother attempting to disinherit me. Along with the financial bombshell, I'd included a handwritten letter explaining everything. How her rejection had affected my health during pregnancy. How I'd tried to build bridges while she burned them. How I was done begging for love from someone who made approval conditional on compliance. And how, as of Christmas morning, she was permanently blocked from my life. 3 days later, my mother's lawyer called. She'd opened the present. The lawyer had kept my contact information as executor of my grandfather's estate, which allowed him to reach me despite my mother having no way to contact me directly. The fallout was spectacular. Within a week, I learned that my father couldn't handle how Mom had treated me. They started fighting constantly about her cruelty, which led to him discovering something else. During their explosive arguments, she'd been secretly giving Michael $2,600 every month for over 2 years. Money she'd told Dad was for household expenses and charity donations, $43,000 total. All while lecturing everyone about financial responsibility and rejecting David for being economically unsuitable. The hypocrisy was staggering. 8 months after Lily was born, Michael showed up at our house, looking terrible. Thinner, unshaven, wearing clothes that looked slept in. He'd managed to find our address through a mutual friend from high school who'd seen my social media posts about the baby. But when he saw my daughter, his expression transformed to pure wonder, followed immediately by what looked like grief. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She looks just like you did as a baby." "Mom and Dad are getting divorced," he told me, "and she's been stalking you. She hired a private investigator to get photos of you and Lily. She has a whole scrapbook." He'd learned these details because he was still living in the house during their explosive fights, overhearing everything as their marriage disintegrated. I got a restraining order the next day, but Michael surprised me by actually changing. Getting his own apartment, finding steady work, proving he could be the uncle Lily deserved without sharing information back to our mother. Exactly 1 year after that devastating Christmas morning, David and I renewed our vows on Lily's first birthday. We were surrounded by people who'd actually supported us through everything. As we promised to keep choosing each other every day, I looked at our small but genuine gathering and felt complete. My grandfather's inheritance gave us options we'd never imagined. David opened the custom tattoo studio he'd dreamed of. I completed my nurse practitioner certification, and we bought a beautiful house in a neighborhood with excellent schools. Everything my mother had claimed David could never provide, we built together using money she'd never known existed. The little girl my mother had rejected became the center of a family who would never question her worth. Sometimes the best Christmas gift is discovering you don't need the people who were never truly family to begin with. Looking back, I realize my mother did me a favor that Christmas morning. By showing her true character so completely, she freed me to build something real with people who actually loved me. The family I chose, David's warm, accepting relatives, and the friends who stood by us, became the foundation Lily would grow up knowing. My biological mother spent Christmas alone that year, and every year since. The divorce was finalized 6 months after their initial separation, with my father keeping most of the family business assets while she received a modest settlement. The country club friends she'd worried about impressing had their own opinions about a woman who'd disown her pregnant daughter. The charity boards she'd served on quietly asked her to step down after word spread about the family scandal, information I learned through the same social circles that had once intimidated me. Pride costs more than she'd ever calculated. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose yourself over toxic family members? Sometimes the people who should love us unconditionally are the ones who hurt us most, but we don't have to accept that treatment forever. Hit that like button if you believe in setting boundaries, even when it's painful. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength when family fails you. And remember, the family you choose is often stronger than the one you're born into. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.